Hello everyone, and welcome to this video, which is in our Reengineering the Chess Classic series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and we're continuing our look at the games of Dawid Janowski. Dutch chess fans are in for a huge treat since this game features Abraham Speijer, quite a strong Dutch master of the time, against Dawid Janowski in a casual game played in the Netherlands in 1901. But you know, whether the game was casual or tournament, that didn't really affect Janowski's style of play, and well, we're going to see a pretty nice queen sacrifice in this game. Actually, it's a really nice game. So how did this opening come about? So it was an Italian game: knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, d3, knight f6, c3, castles. And now Speijer played queen e2. Yeah, I mean, what is the idea of this sort of setup for white? Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, first of all, you're not playing d4, you're playing d3, so you're going for this sort of, well, slightly filly-dory structure, but then as white. And what you're also doing, you're delaying castling as well. What this means is that you're just trying to hold the center, and actually, instead of castling, you're most likely to play moves like h3, g4, and get the knight maybe into play into f5. It doesn't look a particularly sophisticated way of playing. You may be surprised to learn that I've played like this an awful lot in actual fact, and actually. Yeah, you know, well, we're actually going to see that one game that I played quite recently in this. But yeah, I mean, what you tend to see is that although it doesn't have an amazing theoretical reputation, black players do find these positions very difficult to play. You know, they often going quite wrong quite quickly. And well, actually, that's why I was impressed with Janowski's play, because you know, he really does play it in a pretty good way. Well, you know, this is 1901 somehow, but he plays in the most active modern way. Now, what black players often do is play a move like d6, and you play bishop b3 just to make sure that your bishop can't get exchanged for a knight with knight a5. Yeah, and then you play all this, and somehow black players struggle to make counterplay in these positions. And yeah, the one thing that I found was when I did practice games against the engines, they always found, you know, some very good plans, very active plans, and I was never really getting great positions. But yeah, play it against humans, and it all seems to go great. So d5 was played by Janowski, just the most aggressive move straight away, occupying the centre, and that's pretty good. Bishop b3 played by Speijer, and now bishop g4. Yeah, very aggressive play from Janowski, just putting the bishop, occupying the centre, putting the bishop out there, and it's pretty good too. Actually, the engines suggest this move, which is quite nice as well. a5. Just looking to gain space on the queen side, so a4, and then bishop e6. And yeah, the nice idea of that is that, you know, black's threatening a little tactic, d takes c4, with a discovered attack on the bishop. Yeah, you know, white has to be just a little bit careful. I mean, you can play stuff like knight bd2, but then, well, the problem still arises afterwards, because if you go knight f1, then d takes c4 is dangerous. Probably something like knight bd2. Yeah, black plays h6 in this position. And funnily enough, I was looking at this and thinking this looks sort of vaguely familiar to me, and it turns out that I actually played a game in 2015 in this against the promising young English player James Adair. I think he's a grandmaster now. It certainly had all the norms. Now, I think he just needed the rating at the time. But yeah, this, well, you know, I came across this position. James played this a5, h6 idea, which is very nice. And yeah, I mean, I had to sort of think about a plan, really. And I wasn't really too keen. I wasn't too sure what to do. So what I did, I played e takes d5. And black played bishop takes d5, again the best move, the engine recommended move, and then I played the move bishop c2. The engines recommend bishop takes d5, but that sort of looked like I was playing for a draw, really, and didn't really feel like what I wanted to do. Although, well, we can have a little look at what the engines did afterwards, because, well, maybe that would have been interesting too. But James played knight d7, and then, haha, I went g4, which is apparently not an amazingly good move, but it certainly is in the spirit of, you know, of what I'm aiming for. I've delayed castling. I'm trying to not let too much happen in the centre, and I'm trying to play on the wings. So James went knight f6, rook g1, and here he made quite a big mistake, really. I think he was a bit afraid that I'd go just knight e4 and then played g5. So he played this this move, bishop takes f3. You can see I just had a quick look at the TCC to see what's happening in the TCC Swizz, and well, Leela, Stockfish, and Komodo at the top. Not surprising, but yeah, I left the site on, so we're getting the effects there. So knight takes f3 and rook e8, and I think the idea was, now I can't block on e4, and James was looking at something like knight d4 maybe, but actually it's way too slow, you know. So I just went g5 takes, bishop g5, queen d6, castle queenside, and I mean this was just absolutely appalling for black. Here knight d2, quite a nice move actually, threatening bishop f3 and also freeing f3 for the queen. Queen f3, bishop b3, knight e4, and well, there wasn't much hope. Knight d8, d4, and everything was coming in there. Yeah, I mean that's really what you're aiming for, and yeah, I mean that I could get such a good position against a strong player like James so quickly. You know, it just shows that these positions, you can think that you know, the engine can tell you it's equal or even slightly better for black or whatever, but there are certain conceptual difficulties with playing this well, and you know, it's very easy for human players to go wrong. The engines played bishop d5, knight e4, actually something quite similar, knight d7, bishop e3, bishop e7, g4, and rook g1, and well, to be honest, I mean, again, you know, the engines are saying, it's fine, equal, no worries, but, you know, again, if you're facing this in a practical game as a human player, it's rather unpleasant, simply. And as I said, I've just made very big scores where every time I've played this sort of stuff with white. Janowski's move, bishop g4, also very reasonable. Somehow the players of that era had a mania for developing the the light squared bishop very early to g4. I think that's much less happens much less in modern times somehow. We're much, you know, more. I think a bit more wary about you know, maybe needing to give up the bishop pair, or getting the bishop trapped, you know, just like this somehow. But it's not a bad move. So bishop g4, now I would have played h3 probably in this position. Actually the engines want to play bishop e6 after, so they don't consider bishop g4 too successful, I guess. But Speijer played bishop g5, quite reasonable, and now a very interesting moment. There's a great set of DVDs by Sergei Tivyakov, and in it he talks about these sort of structures, because Sergei is a big expert in these lines, and what he mentions all the time is that, you know, black players have a huge tendency to take on e4, and he really considered this to be a major positional mistake, and that if black did that, then he was really running the risk of getting into a losing position very quickly. It, you know, releases the tension, gives white easy development, you know, and well, I mean, just have a look at those videos, something like Italian and Spanish structures, or slow structures, something like that, and yeah, very, very powerful. Now the engines think that d takes e4 is okay, but the move that I've always found the most difficult to face, and that's the move that Janowski plays, is the move d4. And what's the idea of d4? Well, yeah, Janowski shows this very nicely, because after knight d2 he played the move b5, and again, this is not the engine's favourite idea in this line, but this is absolutely the right spirit, because what black is aiming for is to take on c3 and to play b4. And what he's going to do, he's just going to take white's control away from d4, and then the knight can come into d4, and then you see that this queen on e2 is a little bit unluckily placed, really. But this whole plan of, you know, going d4, taking on c3, then diluting the pawn structure with b4, and then bringing the knight into d4, and possibly accompanied, most probably accompanied by you know, a push of the a pawn and gaining space on the queen side. It's a really, really good plan, and very few human players have played it. And yeah, I mean, these are modern players, right, with you know, the benefit of a lot of experience and DVDs and instruction on these lines. But yeah, you know, Janowski 1901 just finds it like that. It's a very, very good plan indeed. And funnily enough, actually, there's also a great game around this period between Byrne, I think it was, and quite a young Tarrasch. And Tarash again plays a very similar plan, gets an excellent position like that. So yeah, amazing. Sometimes you really see that that the classic players, they straight away from the first moment they understood very, very quickly what the key plan was, and yeah, it's stuff that's certainly not easy because modern players are not always finding it. Just in general, there the engines wanted to play h6 and g5 and knight h5, which is also a very good plan. But this b5 idea, yeah, irrespective of whether it's 100% the best in this line, in this specific move order, it's absolutely brilliant positional plan. And here Speijer reacted quite sharply, tactically, played the move bishop d5. So yeah, I mean, it really looks like, okay, well, you've loosened your queen side with this move. I'm going to attack this one, and obviously the pawn on e5 is a little bit in danger as well, because we've got ideas like taking on e5 later, maybe chase away the bishop first. So here Janowski played a move that I'm sure he would have played in a tournament game as well. Absolutely brilliant idea. If you want to see whether you can find it, then pause the video now. The move was knight takes d5. Not the very strongest according to the engine. They prefer this line. Although to be honest, yeah, I don't know. I didn't really. This is perfectly fine for black, of course, but yeah, black seemed to be emerging with decent prospects somehow. I think knight takes d5 is much more challenging. What's the idea? Well, after bishop d8, we throw in a little knight f4 there. And after queen f1, yeah, Janowski took with the f rook on d8. Now, it's interesting. The engines all want to play rook a d8, which to me looks totally unnatural. The point is that after rook c1, which they consider to be the best move, quite a clever idea. You're just aiming to take like this, defend this pawn, and also, well, thank you. I think that's Fritz winning a game there, and just hitting those pieces that have been weakened by the fact you've played b5, so that's quite clever. And there the engine wants to just play f5 in this position, and obviously that's when you want your rook there. But I mean, Janowski's move is very reasonable, because what he was anticipating was throwing these queenside pawns forward, and then yeah, he obviously wants the rook as well. I think he was also, and I think that's quite a natural assumption, assuming that white was going to castle queenside, and then he really wanted to have his rook on the a file to support the advance of the queenside pawn. So yeah, pretty reasonable idea there. So knight b3 was played. Yeah, rook c1 was the toughest defense, looking for takes and takes like this. And actually, the engines wanted quite a forcing line here. Knight d4, knight takes f3, knight takes d3, and then takes f6. And well, we sort of reached an equalish endgame there. Just pawn structure's a little bit better for white maybe, but plenty of activity there for black. But well, that's not a very easy line to be sure about, in all fairness, with black. So white actually played knight b3, very natural, and then bishop f8 from Janowski, and then castles. And the funny thing is that one of the things that Janowski is renowned for, and yeah, I mean, it's true, but it's not. For me, I think it was maybe got a bit over exaggerated somehow, but. It's not a totally defining characteristic of this player. I think there are others, but it's his love of two bishops. And well, what you actually see happening here is that the engine always wants Janowski to play bishop takes f3, which is pretty decent. I mean, it really cements this knight on f4 and the pressure on d3 as well. But yeah, Janowski doesn't do that, and you sort of really think maybe that goes back to his love for the two bishops. In fairness as well, after all, this knight can't move, and the bishop's going to be attacking a rook if it ever moves. So why would you hurry? Actually, it's. I think Janowski's move is very, very reasonable. a5, and I have to say that I was really impressed at how Janowski just played. With two pieces of the queen, just doesn't force anything or anything, plays aggressively, but it doesn't go crazy, just simply keeps on playing positionally as if nothing had happened. And this is the idea. That's why he took with the f rook on d8. The idea is simply he wants to attack with a4 and b4, possibly d takes c3 before, and then a4 b4, just loosen stuff up. So Speijer played king b1, got hit with a4, knight c1, and now a3. The engines were looking more at this sort of breakthrough like this, but a3 is very strong. And actually, what I was finding was that Janowski's move are not they're not the engine's first choice. But you put the Janowski's choice on the engine, and then they're saying, oh yeah, that's still plus 3.9 instead of plus 4 or something. So Janowski's playing very, very strongly here. So after c takes d4, a takes b2, and then knight b3. If king takes b2, we're just going to take on f3 there. Go bishop a3, and then go rook takes d4. And knight b3, rook b4, queen e1, knight d4. Look how beautiful that is. And black's actually just threatening c5 to c4 here, as well as stuff like knight b3 maybe at some stage. But if you go queen c3, we go knight fe2 here, and the engine could find nothing better than queen takes b4 in this position. So this is really beautiful play, and there's so many nice mates. For example, takes, king c2, and rook b2 is checkmate. I've never seen a checkmate like that, with the knight on e2 here, and then these squares blocked by the queen. It's really really beautiful, and Speijer plays knight b3, and then Janowski played knight b4. Again, the engine says take on f3 first, and play knight b4. But this is also very, very strong. So this rook coming, just like Janowski anticipated, attacking on the a file. So knight takes c5 was played by Speijer, which you've got to just try and get free a little bit. Bishop d1, queen d1, rook a2, and there's just a big problem here. The rook's coming to a8. We're going to get rook a1 check, as well as all sorts of other things here. So Speijer played queen f3, very natural, just hitting the knight, and of course there's the f7 pawn behind it. But Janowski had anticipated this with rook d a8. And the kind of the shocking thing again is that if you play queen takes f4 here, I've got rook a1, rook check, and rook c2. Another very unusual checkmate. Quite amazing that Janowski is anticipating all this, because none of it's standard and obvious. I think that's what the point is. That I think I'm impressed and surprised somehow, because this is not sort of position where you've got a great deal of experience with with the material balance or anything like that, and Janowski's just playing engine second recommended move and just winning it easily somehow. It's really impressive. So knight c5 was played here, just trying to get the knight out of the way. Actually, also I think trying to free some space for the king. You get b3, and then actually the knight on b4 will be hanging. So takes was played, and now actually probably Janowski's only really suboptimal move in this game, I think. Not that this is easy, but rook 8a3 was actually mate in 6 or 7, which is it's a very unusual mate, because after queen there you go check, and then you go check there again. This with the rook, this one there is the surprise, and king b1 we go rook b3 check, king c1, rook c2, king d1, rook b1 check. It's very unusual. These are quite hard to spot, the ones where you check, because you sort of always expect to go forward somehow, and checking with the rook that's already come the maximum distance, checking back with it is often quite hard to find. And to be honest, rook 8a3 is also it just looks like a leading absolutely nowhere move, really. So that was very hard to spot. Janowski chose something pretty spectacular and also very good. He played the move knight e2, so we're threatening knight c3 checkmate. And after queen takes e2, you can take on f7 as well. and queen b3. That would have been the best defense, but after here and here, again, that was the point of knight e2 that Janowski had seen. It's the same tactic as we saw the engine placing. You're covering these, so that just means that after takes, you're a piece up. You're a little bit awkward there with rook a4, but you're just throwing knight d4 to chase the king back, so it's no big deal. Black's just a piece for a couple of pawns up. But yeah, obviously mate in 6 is better, but still, knight e2 still an absolutely gorgeous move. And after queen e2, just went check, and then check, and picked up the rook. And after king b4, gave a check, rook takes f2. And Speijer resigned. He's the exchange down, and well, very, very bad position. All these pawns are going as well. Might have carried on if it was a tournament game. Maybe you might get a little bit of counterplay with d4, d5. Who knows? But yeah, of course, it's completely winning for Black. So there we are. I mean, I thought that was a really impressive game, and I love the strategy from the start, playing d4. Again, a strategy that many Black players, experienced Lopez players, get wrong. And then, this move b5, just really showing the real correct understanding, positional understanding about how to deal with those structures, and also the specific problem with the queen on e2. It's vulnerable to knight d4. And well, I mean, the tactical imagination here was great. And although you can say at certain moments, you say, that's not the top engine move. I mean, really, the level of play was incredible. Just so calmly, playing positional moves, gaining space, opening up the opponent's king when you're just a whole queen down. Is kind of amazing, really. Yeah, I think every move was powerful. Every move was was just incredibly good, and especially this tactical sequence. Yeah, I mean, it's clear that Black's doing really well, but you're having to find some quite unusual stuff. Visualize some quite unusual stuff, like this knight e2 idea at the end. Here, okay, it wasn't the absolute best move. This move knight e2, but it's still incredible vision to see that somehow. So no, brilliant, really another brilliant game from Janowski. I hope you agree. So there we are. That was that game. If you enjoyed the video, why not give a like, subscribe to the channel, take a look at my new book, Reengineering the Chess Classics. I promise there's no Janowski games in there, but still, 35 classic games just analysed with the engines. We found, well, yeah, just so many new things like this, and yeah, it's not a book that aims to show that the classic players didn't know anything. On the contrary, it's meant to highlight the greatness in their play, often correct criticisms of their play, but also show the amazing things that remained hidden. The reason why those games are so rich in content. Basically, the engine just shows that. So do take a look at that book. I'm very proud of it, and yeah, I think it's a really, really great effort. And otherwise, thanks very much for listening to me, being part of the channel, and hope to see you at the next videos. Thanks for watching.